Chapter 561 Frantically Cultivating. In the Imperial Palace within Radiant City, the Sun Moon Empire, a secret letter was lying on Shu Tianran's desk. There was an adorable orange mandarin, Juzi, logo at the opening of the envelope. After receiving this letter, Shu Tianran couldn't help but reveal a gentle smile. It seems like Juzi's letter is finally here. I wonder how she'll handle the current situation. A thorough search had been conducted for the past few days, but they were still unable to locate their enemies. It seemed as though they had disappeared without leaving a trace after sneaking an attack on Radiant City. This was completely unbelievable. Shu Tianran was starting to worry that the enemies really possessed some sort of spatial technology like Elder Kong had suggested. If his foes really possessed such technologies, their next attack could take place within Radiant City. After opening the envelope, Shu Tianran took out the letter. This envelope had been sealed with a certain kind of soul tool that was able to destroy the letter if the person did not know how to properly unseal the envelope. Juzi's beautiful handwriting decorated the entire letter. Her words seemed to convey the respect she had for Shu Tianran. Shu Tianran already felt happier just from looking at her words. He started to wonder if he had gone overboard when Juzi asked him about whether she could bring the prince to the battlefield with her. He felt that perhaps his reply should have been more positive. However, he believed that he had already repaid her loyalty with the trust he had shown her by giving her control over the army. As he thought about this, Shu Tianran began to read the contents of the letter. While he was reading, the changes in his facial expression were extremely drastic. While he revealed a startled expression at times, it was more often than not admiring what Juzi had done. He was full of praise for her. I can't believe she thought of such a good way to tackle the cumbersome situation. She really is the war god empress of the Sun Moon Empire. Juzi is really the person I trust the most. The main theme of Juzi's letter only contained these 3 words: do not attack. They would surround Shrek City, but would not attack it. She planned to draw all the forces that shared a relationship with Shrek City to the place where their current camp was set up. They would set up their defensive lines outside their camp and reinforce these lines with their linked defensive soul tools. They would not initiate an attack, as they gave Shrek City a relatively long deadline to turn who of you out in. Once the Douluo Empire and Douluo Empire's troops gathered at Shrek City, they would have achieved their objective. They could then be a lot more flexible with who their real target was. And if the enemy force that attacked Radiant City would be in contact with the Shrek Academy, they would definitely retreat unconditionally to help defend Shrek City. The 2 Soul Engineer Legions would definitely be useful for the battle at Shrek City. This meant that regardless of what capabilities this team possessed, they could only use them to fight the Sun Moon Empire directly on the battlefield. And when it came to such head-on battles, the Sun Moon Empire was almost invincible. Good. Shu Tianran exclaimed in delight. His injuries seemed to have gotten better by a little bit. He immediately penned a reply, and ordered his subordinates to rush his letter to the front line. He told Juzi to decide the next course of action by herself, and not to worry about the situation back at Radiant City. He informed her that the Imperial Soul Engineer Legion had returned to Radiant City to protect the palace, and was waiting for favorable news from the front line. Once again, Juzi had used her wisdom to gain more trust from Shu Tianran. He seemed to believe that the Douluo Empire and Douluo Empire had already fallen into his hands. He felt that Shrek City was but another city after all. It should not be impossible to destroy it. To be honest, Shu Tianran did not want to destroy Shrek City. Instead, he wanted to see Shrek City bow to him, because that would give him the strongest sense of accomplishment. When Shu Tianran was younger, he had once fantasized about the Shrek Academy, the #1 academy on the entire continent. Shu Tianran would only be happier if Shrek City would willingly join and be a part of the Sun Moon Empire. If that were to happen, every secret about Soul Masters that the Academy would uncover would belong to the Sun Moon Empire. They might be able to draw some insights from martial souls and find a way to heal limbs, especially that limb which only males had. Shu Tianran immediately became uncontrollably excited the moment this idea entered his head. A powerful desire enveloped his mind as he thought about Juzi. How could he not love his beautiful and capable war god empress? She was his empress, after all. However, he was somehow unable to conquer her body physically, and such miseries were deadly for any man. Even Shu Tianran, the emperor of the Sun Moon Empire, was no exception. In the Sun Moon Empire's commander's tent outside of Shrek City, Juzi was sitting in the commander's seat as she read the reconnaissance reports which had been submitted to her. A faint smile was forming on her face. Shrek City? Why would I attack Shrek City? This academy holds great significance to that man. Regardless of what happens, I will never destroy Shrek City and the academy recklessly. However, this will not affect my plans to attack the other empires, especially the Douluo Empire. Even though the hatred within Juzi's heart had slowly faded away, that did not necessarily mean she had forgotten about it. Conversely, she now felt as if everything was under her control, and looked forward to that day's arrival. If the Douluo Empire had not destroyed my homeland and turned me into a helpless orphan, I would not have met Shu Tianran. Hence, she knew she must destroy the Douluo Empire in the future in order to relieve herself from the deep hatred which lay in her heart. However, her current target was not the Douluo Empire. Empress. A dark figure suddenly appeared in the commander's tent without any warning. Juzi had long been accustomed to the way this person arrived. She stood up slowly and flashed a smile. Imperial tutor, you're here. Yes. Douluo nodded as he strolled closer to Juzi before stopping. Empress, have you decided when we will attack Shrek City? Juzi replied, there are still 8 more days before the deadline arrives. You need to be patient. Empress, do you really plan to be honest with Shrek City? Douluo replied coldly, I believe the academy had already started to ask for help from all over the entire continent. Before long, reinforcements from Douluo Empire and the Douluo Empire will arrive. When that happens, we will need to sustain huge costs in order to destroy them. You must think about the injuries and deaths we will have to sustain when that happens. With our current strength, we can flatten Shrek City anytime as we will. Juzi shook her head gently and said, I believe Imperial Tutor must be extremely familiar with Shrek Academy. Since that's the case, what do you think will be the cost for our victory if we had to force an attack on them right now? Douluo was a little startled as he replied, Shrek Academy has taken in the remaining bastards from the Heavenly Soul Empire. Even if we were to factor in their in-city defense army, their numbers would still pale in comparison to ours. After all, we have an 800,000 strong army, with 8 Soul Engineer Legions. We should be able to destroy their defensive lines just with our Soul Engineer Legions. Juzi said, no, it won't be that simple. Based on the data we have collected, it seems like Shrek Academy already possesses the ability to manufacture Class 9 stationary soul cannon shells. As for the exact number of shells which they have produced, we have yet to obtain any reliable data. In addition, the Academy has countless powerful soul masters. Almost every single elder within the Sea God's Pavilion possesses abilities which rival that of a transcendent Douluo. If we were to force their hand, I am unsure what this powerful academy with over 10,000 years of history is capable of. Right now, the best strategy for us is to surround them, but not attack them. As for the reinforcements you were mentioning earlier, they are the people I want to see the most. It would best if they were to turn up here. Douluo squinted after listening to Juzi's words. He was not a fool, as he seemed to have sensed something after hearing what she said. Empress, does this mean you don't plan to attack Shrek City? Juzi said, it is not the right time yet. The Imperial Dragon Soul Engineer Legion and the Evil Eye Tyrant Soul Engineer Legion have just set off the night before last. Our army camp looks the same, but we already have 50,000 troops leaving the camp and cooperating with the 2 Soul Engineer Legions. We just need to attract Shrek Academy's attention here at the front line. Even though it is not the right time to attack, we can still launch feint attacks once in a while. Douluo's breathing started to become uneven as he said authoritatively, with the current power we have, we can definitely take them down if we were to put in our best effort. Even if they try to retaliate, we definitely possess the ability to suppress them. Once Shrek City falls, the psychological support that the Douluo Empire and Douluo Empire depend on will disappear. This means the entire continent will definitely be ours sooner or later. I don't understand why you want to delay the entire plan. Juzi replied plainly, Imperial Tutor, I want to remind you of your appointment. You are the military supervisor, not the commander. When it pertains to tactical and strategic matters, I will be the one calling the shots. If you are unsatisfied with any of my plans, feel free to take it up with His Majesty. If His Majesty does not agree with my plans, I am definitely willing to change them. Douluo's breathing started to become rapid. For inexplicable reasons, he seemed to fear Juzi a little, but of course, he did not fear her for her fighting power. He could definitely destroy Juzi easily in a fight with the ability that she possessed. However, she was truly frightening when it came to leading troops and strategizing warfare. It was almost as though she was assisted by God himself. Even though Douluo was not a young man anymore, he was still unable to fully appreciate and understand her military arrangements. Nonetheless, her inspiring tactics were always able to decide victory, even when he did not understand them. Hence, he really did not dare to offend Juzi. Furthermore, she had the support of multiple Class 9 Soul Engineers around her, even though he had brought several powerful cultivators from the Holy Ghost Church along with him. Soul Engineers were not as frightened of evil Soul Masters as regular Soul Masters were. Humph. Take care then, Empress. Douluo waved to the sleeve of his robe as he turned and left. Juzi looked at the back of his figure and flashed a faint smile. In that case, I will not be sending you off. It was common for the commander and the military supervisor from any country and any point in time in history to share conflicting opinions. After all, there was a reason why military supervisors existed. Zhongli Wu was naturally not the military supervisor who Shu Tianran wanted to send over. However, the Holy Ghost Church was simply too powerful, so he had no choice but to do so. The Holy Ghost had long been trying to create a bigger presence within the Sun Moon Empire's army. However, the effects of their participation had never gone particularly well. After all, evil soul masters were often ostracized by most people, regardless of whether they were soul masters or soul engineers. After watching Zhongli Wu leave the tent, Juzi squinted as she crossed her arms in front of her chest. These annoying evil soul masters. With them around, it will be very difficult for me to execute my plan perfectly. If there's a chance, their use for the Holy Ghost Church had been diminishing for a while. After the body sector being completely destroyed, the only use for the Holy Ghost Church was to fight against the powerful cultivators from Shrek Academy. If not for the existence of two ultimate Douluo within the Holy Ghost Church, Shu Tianran would have long since employed a method to force them to surrender to him. When it came to dealing with the Holy Ghost Church, both Juzi and Shu Tianran had the same ideas. This sect, which was full of evil soul masters, was bound to create trouble for them in the future. Once the Sun Moon Empire conquered the entire continent, the Holy Ghost Church would definitely think of a way to wrest the throne for themselves. With regards to how exactly they would do it, both Shu Tianran and Juzi were certain that those mysterious evil soul masters must have their own ways to achieve that. Knowing how her son would become the future ruler of the entire continent, Juzi was determined to not let the Holy Ghost Church succeed in their scheme. However, the thought of her son made Juzi's body tremble as the harsh look in her eyes became gentler. Before she left Radiant City, she had gotten the help of an extremely powerful individual within the Sun Moon Empire to protect her son. She was not afraid that an external enemy would target her son. On the contrary, she was worried about the Holy Ghost Church. Now, she was most afraid that the Holy Ghost Church would take action against her son, Xu Yanan. That would truly be horrifying. The actual battle on the battlefield must end as soon as possible. It was only after the war had ended that she could finally return to Radiant City and make her next move. A faint cold look appeared in Juzi's pupils. The task which she was about to embark on was not just about conquering the entire continent. Besides, there was no need to rush the process. Within the Tang Sect in Shrek City, Huo Yuao's spiritual soul core vibrated intensely as it continued to radiate powerful spiritual fluctuations from within his body. His eye of destiny had somehow opened itself without him even knowing about it. The light from the spiritual soul core sparkled within the dark room. However, it never stopped vibrating and trembling in an unstable manner. Huo Yuao looked more determined than ever. The fluid-like spiritual power that Elder Mu had left for him to control the spiritual soul core had already disappeared. After absorbing that spiritual power, his spiritual soul core had become a lot stronger. At the same time, it had also bought precious time for Huo Yuao. Now, the ultimate eye soul core at his chest area had become a lot stronger and larger as well. The speed at which it was rotating was no longer observable by the human eye. Huo Yuao didn't know exactly how much longer he persevered with Elder Mu's help, but he had witnessed the ultimate eye soul core at his chest area grow more than 3 times its original size in this amount of time. Even though the ultimate eye soul core had yet to take on a shape, it was no longer as fragile and feeble as before. It had become a lot stronger and seemed to be as solid as an ice crystal. The effects of its rotation speed on his spiritual soul core were also becoming greater. The mutual collision between the two soul cores caused Huo Yuao to tremble uncontrollably. Once again, the Snow Empress and Ice Empress showcased their abilities. In fact, they had been going about their tasks in an extremely stable manner. Under the effects of the dragon pill, Huo Yuao's body had become a lot stronger. He was at the very least able to persevere till now, even though the Star Anise was not making any moves. Little Bai had been supporting Huo Yuao by using his power to fortify his passageways and internal organs. Liya had taken a break after Elder Mu's spiritual power had fused into Huo Yuao's body. Now, she was getting ready to lend a hand when necessary. Right now, the yin-yang complement technique was at a stage where it was already too late to back out. Huo Yuao was clear that if he were to fail now, he would not only be sustaining injuries. This was because the ultimate ice ball of energy at his chest area had already become considerably strong. It had already absorbed close to 30% of his soul power. Even though this amount of soul power was still insufficient to form a soul core, the compressed extreme energy was still able to blow his dragon blood enhanced body to pieces if it were to explode. He stabilized his focus and continued his current state. After all the tribulations he had gone through, Huo Yuao was able to keep himself calm and focused during times like this. If he were to still fail even with the help of his 6 spirits and Elder Mu, there was little chance that he could succeed in the future. Hence, he had to persevere and push on no matter what. He only had one shot at this. Right now, his spiritual soul core was rotating in a furious manner. It was apparent that the spiritual power that Elder Mu had injected into his head was only able to temporarily delay it. At the same time, it had nourished the spiritual soul core and made it a lot stronger. The energy that the spiritual soul core was radiating now was becoming a lot stronger. It was attacking Huo Yuao's determination like waves hitting the shore. The spiritual power that was released by the spiritual soul core under Huo Yuao's control would immediately be torn up by the ultimate ice soul core whenever it got close to it. The spiritual soul core would then have no choice but to gather the torn bits and reabsorb them. Hence, the spiritual soul core was becoming increasingly enraged. How could it sit and wait as someone attempted to snatch its territory? The temperature in the laboratory started to dip as the Star Anise mysterious ice grass crept out of Huo Yuao's body silently. Its icy blue leaves radiated a gentle glow, which seemed to be dissipating its energy. Star Anise icy coagulation. The Star Anise mysterious ice grass was rapidly absorbing the ultimate ice aura in the air before it transferred it back into Huo Yuao's body. The energy was then passed over to the Snow Empress for her to replenish her expended energy. Huo Yuao was unable to sense all of this because all of his attention had already been invested in his spiritual soul core. After an unknown amount of time had passed, the intense pain which came from the spiritual soul core's mindless ravaging pushed Huo Yuao to his limits once again. His body, which had been nourished and enhanced by the dragon pill, was showing signs of tearing up again. Even though Liya had already jumped in to help him, she was no longer able to restrain the spiritual soul core, which was practically going insane by now. She could only help to slightly stabilize the energy within it. Suddenly, an icy blue current moved upwards. The Snow Empress ice crystal had finally moved once again. It was heading upwards again. The Snow Empress spiritual aura was as cold and tough as Huo Yuao's sigh of the Snow Goddess. It instantly pierced Huo Yuao's spiritual soul core without any difficulty. It was as if the soul core had a bucket of ice water poured on it, and it paused momentarily, following which, the ice crystal which was formed by the Snow Empress suddenly exploded to form streaks of energy which gushed towards the rapidly rotating ball of ultimate ice soul power. Snow Empress. Even though Huo Yuao was in an unbelievable amount of pain, he could still sense what the Snow Empress had done for him. Although he did not know what kind of harm the Snow Empress had inflicted upon herself, he was still able to sense her determination to help him at all costs. Snow Empress. The ball of ultimate ice energy which was at his chest started to vibrate with an unprecedented intensity before huge amounts of energy spurted out of it like a geyser. Huo Yuao felt his chest contract rapidly as the spiritual power which was swarming towards his chest disintegrated instantly. The pain he had been withstanding also disappeared temporarily. The ultimate ice energy that was released from the ice crystal's explosion was very pure. It was like ice belts, which latched themselves onto the ball of ultimate ice energy. Instead of slowing down, the ball of ultimate ice energy was somehow able to rotate faster after the ice belts attached themselves to it. During its rapid rotation, the ball of ultimate ice energy was constantly emitting a loud humming sound. The ultimate ice energy within the ball was being heavily compressed at an insane speed as a powerful sensation was released from Huo Yuao's chest to his surroundings. The ball of ultimate ice energy was actually able to expand itself to 10 times its original size in a couple of seconds. Just when it was about to take up Huo Yuao's entire chest cavity, it suddenly contracted to its original size, as though it was compressed by a mysterious force. The color of the soul core had also changed along with the series of strange transformations. It had become dark blue. One could also notice a patch of darkness surrounding the crystal clear dark blue ball of energy. Soul core. Is this how it's supposed to look like? At the very least, it looks like a soul core that has begun to take shape. Huro Yuao was startled by the sight before him. Based on his estimations, he should have required thrice as much as time as it had taken, and an enormous amount of ultimate ice energy, to reach the current state of his soul core. However, the Snow Empress' sudden intervention seemed to have allowed the soul core to directly take shape. The rapid transformation was no longer just awe-inspiring, it was simply miraculous. Snow Empress, what exactly did you do? The spiritual soul core launched an attack once again after being temporarily stunned by the Snow Empress spiritual shock. This time around, Huro Yuao was not able to completely block the unparalleled spiritual power that was going straight for the ultimate ice soul core, which had just taken shape in Huro Yuao's chest. The intense spiritual power fluctuations seemed to illustrate the murderous intent that his spiritual soul core had towards his ultimate ice soul core. However, Huro Yuao did not sense any pain at this instant. Instead, he felt a mysterious cooling sensation in his chest. Just when the crazy spiritual power was about to collide with the ultimate ice soul core, a powerful intent infused with ultimate ice energy suddenly surged out and froze the spiritual power instantly. Yes, it had just frozen the spiritual power. Spiritual power can actually be frozen. Huro Yuao was utterly shocked by what he had just witnessed. Streaks of ultimate ice energy ascended like sashes as they streamed towards the spiritual soul core. It seemed like they were planning to retaliate against the spiritual soul core. What Huro Yuao could not see was how the star anise mysterious ice grass was already trembling intensely as it tried to release its star anise icy coagulation with the maximum possible power. Its every single leaf had become transparent as it tried to devour every single bit of ice type elemental energy within the room. During this process, strong gusts of icy wind started to blow within the room. Little Bai's protection over Huro Yuao's body had also suddenly stopped. Countless tiny balls of white energy were surging towards Huro Yuao's ultimate ice soul core and fusing with it under its control. The Ice Jade Empress Scorpion's torso bone was also releasing jade green fluid towards the ultimate ice soul core under the Ice Empress control. In my name, Spirit of the Ice Snow Lady, fuse, boom. Huro Yuao's entire body started to tremble. He felt as if his chest and entire body had exploded at this instant, rendering him incapable of thinking. His entire intent and consciousness seemed to be ravaged by a mysterious force. Along with his spiritual soul core, his mind went completely blank. In the slaughtering grounds within the core region of the Great Stardow Forest, the Lake of Life was so still that it resembled a gigantic emerald gem. It was surrounded by plants that were full of vitality. One could sense the life energy that the Lake of Life was emitting by simply breathing the air around it. Unfortunately, this was forbidden ground for all living things which possessed power. Boom! An intense explosion interrupted Mother Nature's peace and serenity. A black figure rose from the center of the Lake of Life, sending water splashing everywhere. The lake water was immediately transformed into mist, which encircled the black figure before being absorbed by him, following which, the black figure continued to float in midair. His long hair dripped down by the sides of his face, while his pitch black pupils radiated a golden glow. However, the depths of his pupils revealed how he was currently shocked beyond belief. What's going on? Why can't I sense his existence anymore? The handsome man muttered to himself. As the world's strongest individual and the champion amongst the 10 great savage beasts, Ditian had always been extremely confident in his abilities. No matter how strong humans were able to become, no one could ever move him from his title as the world's strongest individual. Ditian floated towards the side of the lake as he began to think about the different possibilities. He moved his right hand in the air in a mysterious parabolic manner as a black rune instantly appeared in midair. A black fog permeated the air as the golden glow in Ditian's eyes flickered. However, a worried expression suddenly formed on his face in the next instant. Yes, I can't seem to sense him anymore. I wonder why. Something extremely important must have happened in order to rouse him from his sleep, and this matter must concern the future of the entire Great Stardow Forest. His aura has disappeared. He was clearly able to sense Huro Yuao's aura just a while ago. However, Huro Yuao, who possessed his reverse scale, had seemed to suddenly vanish without a trace. In his eyes, the only possible explanation for this was death. However, he knew that his reverse scale was not only able to monitor Huro Yuao, but also protect him at the same time. The moment he was in any danger, his reverse scale would immediately inform him, and as the beast god, he would definitely be able to rescue Huro Yuao at that instant. Even though Ditian admired Huro Yuao for creating the spirit pagoda and temporarily alleviating the conflict between humans and soul beasts, Huro Yuao was ultimately a human who had the potential to be used in his eyes. He could not afford to allow him to die, because Huro Yuao's body contained the power of destiny, which had belonged to the three-eyed golden lion. As long as he was alive, the power of destiny would continue to keep watch over the Great Stardow Forest, even though it would not be as strong as when the three-eyed golden lion was still around. It was still of great use. At the same time, he could not allow Huro Yuao to become too strong. He was a human who was incredibly gifted. If he were to become a god one day, the Great Stardow Forest would also lose the protection of the power of destiny. Hence, Ditian had been keeping a close eye on Huro Yuao's transformations and growth. Once Huro Yuao was capable of attracting the attention of the god realm, he would seal off his power without any hesitation to stop him from communicating with the god realm. He would not even care about what Huro Yuao's opinions were. There is a limit to how strong a human can become. I am already at the limits of mortality in this world. This is no way a human can defeat me. However, it was under these circumstances that Huro Yuao's aura had suddenly vanished. Ditian had no answer to this phenomenon. Ditian was extremely confident in his reverse scale. After all, it was not just any normal scale. It could essentially act as a clone. With the help of his reverse scale, he could accurately pinpoint where Huro Yuao was and use his mastery of spatial laws to transport portions of his energy to that location. However, he was not only unable to sense Huro Yuao's presence, but also the aura of his own reverse scale. How could he not be surprised? If he were unable to sense the existence of his own reverse scale, he would naturally be unable to transfer his powers and check on Huro Yuao's situation. Something is wrong. There must be a problem somewhere. Ditian squinted. He must not allow the power of destiny to escape from his grasp. There must be something going on at Huro Yuao's side. He must have used some ability to temporarily cut off the connection between me and my reverse scale. This ability must be the reason why I can't sense him. There must be a reason why he's trying to cut off this connection. I must find out what's going on. There's no way I can let this continue without knowing what's happening. His last known location was Shrek City. Worst comes to worst, I will break his arms and legs and keep him with me in the Great Stardow Forest forever. I will then figure out a way to extend his life. Even though the power of destiny might experience some problems, that's still better than losing it entirely. As Ditian took a step forward, he suddenly vanished into thin air. When he reappeared again, he was already 1,000 meters in the air. His figure flickered once again as the sky tore open to reveal a gaping hole. He stepped into the hole before the hole sealed up. Once again, the powerful beast god had disappeared. Shrek City was already very close to the Great Stardow Forest after its expansion. After a minute had passed, Ditian's black figure reappeared in midair as he triggered Shrek City's deafening alarm system. The soul tools from Tang Sect and the Shrek Academy's soul tool hall had been developing rapidly. They now possessed aerial surveillance soul tools both on the ground and in the air. However, compared to the Sun Moon Empire, they were still lacking quite a bit in both the quantity and quality of their soul tools. The surveillance soul tools within Shrek City were immediately able to pick up the presence of an individual in the sky. Multiple soul tools from the ground and the city walls instantly locked their weapons onto the black-colored figure. Seeing how there was only one intruder, 10 soul engineers from the city defense army leapt into the sky as they tried to chase the black figure down. Humph. A cold grunt echoed in the air as the entire sky appeared to tremble at that instant. The 10 figures which had just started to ascend into the sky immediately felt a frightening force pressing onto them from the sky. They were actually forced back to the ground by this mysterious force, because they were falling from a relatively high altitude. Quite a few of them were injured by the fall. Get Huro Yuao to come out. I have a few questions for him. Ditian put his hands behind his back as he floated in midair. He did not seem to show any care or concern for Shrek City's defense system. The sound of the alarm system suddenly changed from its previous piercing sound into a rapid wailing sound. This was a sign that a powerful enemy had intruded into the academy's compound. A couple of figures ascended into the sky from above Shrek Academy. The one who was leading them was none other than Yan Shaosh, the dean of the martial soul department within Shrek Academy. Yan Shaosh was accompanied by Shen Liner, Chen Juo, Kai Maya, and Zhang Lasan. When they saw the beast god floating in midair, a worried look appeared on all their faces. This was not an entity they could afford to offend. Previously, Elder Sun and Elder Mu were only able to seal him for a short period of time after linking their powers. He only left after being persuaded by Huro Yuao. If not, Shrek City could have been in serious danger back then. Beast god, it has been a while since we last met. How have you been doing? May I know why you have visited Shrek Academy? Yan Xiaosh used his hands to make a splitting motion as white intense flames appeared before transforming into two gigantic wings, which tore apart the pressure that was pervading the air, following which, he brought the group of people with him up into the air until they reached the same altitude as Ditian. Ditian's eyes widened in disbelief as he exclaimed, Yan Xiaosh, you have improved very quickly. The current dean of the Martial Soul Department's cultivation was already close to Elder Sun's before he had become an ultimate Douluo. Even though he had not officially reached rank 98, he was on the brink of doing so. Ditian had not expected a transcendent Douluo to improve his cultivation so rapidly. Yan Xiaosh's own Martial Soul was a top-tier Martial Soul. Coupled with the assistance of the Kayankan Fortune pills, Yan Xiaosh was able to improve his cultivation very rapidly. In a few months' time, he would be able to reach rank 98. As for whether he could eventually reach rank 99, it would depend on his luck and his ability to understand and draw insights from the universe. Even so, his current ability had already surpassed Elder Song. He had become the number 1 Soul Master within Shrek Academy other than Elder Sun. Even though Elder Sun had already cultivated at rank 98 for an extended period of time, he was ultimately an agility type Soul Master. There would still be a gap between him and Yan Xiaosh when it came to the power of their martial souls. I am embarrassed by your lavish praises, Beast God. Compared to you, I am really nothing. There must be a reason for you to grace our academy in such a domineering manner, unless you are here to help us defend against our enemies. As he spoke, Yan Xiaosh pointed outside of the city. Ditian was actually stumped by his proposition. He could not help but turn his head to take a look at what was happening outside the city. Even though the Sun Moon Empire's army was more than 50 kilometers away, Ditian was naturally able to see them clearly with the eyesight that he had. His pupils rapidly contracted as he sensed danger from among the troops. This meant that someone in the camp possessed a power which could threaten him. I am not here to help you. All of you will have to resolve your human problems by yourselves. I am here to look for Huo Yuao. Let him out. I have questions for him, Ditian answered coldly. He would not be duped that easily. In fact, he did not have a favorable impression of any human. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.